Well, it is Earth Day, and I want us to remember that the earth responds to prayers. So how perfect it's Earth Day and Prayer Wall Sunday, because we have the two together. If we question that, there's been a lot of studies recently about how water and plants and the environment responds to positive and negative feelings in a good and a bad way. Yet, given its own energy and essence, the earth springs forth in beauty. It only knows to express in fullness and to be alive and to be part of that cycle of life. The Native Americans would pray for all kinds of things, for rain, for good crops, for good hunting, for community. They'd pray for all of it because they knew not only did the land listen, but life listens. You know, life only knows to be alive, as I said. Roses only know to be beautiful. Trees know to be strong. You know, and we're life, but where do we get in the way? How come we don't always share our beauty and our joy and our strength, right? Right? We don't always do that, do we? Sometimes we're kind of wimpy and weak. Even though we have that innate joy within us, we're infused with joy. Ernest Holmes says every person has all the joy in the world inside of them. But why don't we express it all the time? Because we've been given that thing called consciousness. We get to choose. We can decide to be happy or not. We can decide to be that fountain of joy and let joy spring forth within us or not. When Sigmund Freud was studying humans, he decided people didn't know how to be happy. That's not the truth. We know innately how to be happy and joyful and loving and caring. But something has happened on this journey of life. Something has happened to us that we've stuffed that joy that we know only too well. We've stuffed it down inside of us, and we've forgotten. Well, I want this Earth Day, a day for us to remember that like the aliveness of the earth, we are born to be alive. Joseph Campbell, the American mythologist, said, "Life has no meaning except what we give it." That's where consciousness comes in. We choose what we get to see. We choose how we get to experience this beautiful gift of life, this precious gift that we've been given. So if we can go back to the Native Americans, not only did they celebrate the land and life and King Mufasa and Simba, the circle of life, but community. Now, it's interesting. There's another person we can celebrate, and this is Hildegard of Bingen. And she was a 12th century German mystic, a saint, a composer, a visionary, truly an amazing woman. And Matthew Fox called her an eco-warrior because in the 12th century, in the 1100s, she planted gardens in a beautiful way. She encouraged people to honor their bodies and to honor the earth and to feed themselves with healthy food. And she taught about our oneness with nature and our oneness with all life. You know, our daughter has a master's in, I don't even remember, I'll just boil it down to ecological sustainability. And I remember one summer during college, she and her environmental classmates got on I think it was an old school bus, and traveled around the country planting permaculture gardens, teaching people how to talk to their plants and their gardens and their farms so they could work together for good. And when she got back, she was telling me about the tenets, the principles of permaculture, how to listen to the land and how things work together for good. And I realized it was very similar to the tenets of religious science, to the science of mind philosophies. And so we wrote a book called The Green Intention, which takes the permaculture tenets of what to live, how to grow healthy, wonderful food, cooperating and working together, and the spiritual tenets of how to live a loving, caring life, healing yourself and one another. And the byline is living in sustainable joy. Because that is the out-picturing. When we learn how to work with ourselves and with each other in this beautiful way, we can truly live in a state of joy no matter what's going on in our life. As I told you, we have the power to choose. And what happens, all of us, and I see where, if you can tap into this, all of us have within us a little child that wants to be spontaneously joyful. You know what I mean? Just watch little kids. They love to be joyful. They love to have fun. Yet somewhere along the line of this process of living, children are looking outside to figure out how to react to the world, what to do. And somewhere along the line, they're making a mental map of how to respond and how to live. And they pick up negative experiences, whether on purpose or not on purpose. They pick up negative experiences, and they start piling those negative experiences on top of the innate joy. Now feel that inside of you, because it's inside of all of us. We start thinking the negative things in life instead of the positive, joyful things. And so instead of expressing the joy that we're designed to do, we express the fear and we constrict. We actually put a chokehold on that joy. So why do we come here? Why do we come in community and spiritual community? It's to help release, unlock, undo that chokehold, that band we put around our joy, so we can support each other in living joyfully. Do you know what I mean? Do you feel that? Because that little child is still there, and that little child is still going, I want to be joyful, I want to express joy, I want to be spontaneously joyful. And we have to practice it. We have to get in the practice of thinking like a child and running on the beach in just sheer joy for nothing. Just waking up in the morning untroubled by the circumstances of the world. You know, our worry, our fear, our concern, our anger, our judgment doesn't help what's going on anywhere. Do you get what I'm saying? Doesn't work. And we got to get rid of it. The thing that does is our caring and our love. So we have to find ways to reconnect with that inner joy, the part of us that knows. The Psalms, in the Psalms, the ancient Jews would celebrate the earth as divine. So I don't know where your special place is to go to reconnect with the earth, but I know most of us have a place in nature, right? That we like to go and be reminded of the beauty of life. And the ancient Jews, in the book of Psalms, the sacred songs of King David, he says, the pastures of the wilderness overflow. They live abundantly. The hills gird themselves with joy because they only know to be joyful. The meadows clothe themselves with flocks. The valleys deck themselves with grain. And they shout and they sing together for joy. Think where in the world you could go this minute. Don't leave now, but not this minute, but today, and just see the beauty of life out there, because that's what nature's here to teach us. The prophet Isaiah goes on to say, for you shall go out in joy and be led back in peace. That's what comes from joyful living, from being that fountain of joy, of appreciation and gratitude. The mountain and the hills before you shall burst into song, and the trees of the field shall clap their hands in joy. Ernest Holmes said, the kingdom of God is joy. And he defines joy. Ernest Holmes is the founder of our teaching, and he defines joy as the emotion excited when we know that life is inherently good. That in every situation there is goodness to be revealed. And he goes on to say that as I said, every person holds all the joy there is. He goes on to say that joy is creativity, it's power, it's beauty, it's appreciation, and it's again that place we go. Now, I think we've all been there in times of grief and sadness and hardship, where we know there's something better within us that wants to be revealed. Do you know that place I'm talking about? It's that place of faith and hope where we know there's always something more. We know that all is well within our soul. So we want to reconnect with that place, but it's also understanding some people mix up joy and pleasure. Now, how many of you like pleasure? Of course we do. Pleasure's wonderful. We like wonderful things. We like to be pleased and excited and stimulated by all sorts of different things. But pleasure is fleeting. It happens and then it's gone. Where joy is a constant state that we can hold in the midst of hardship, in the midst of betrayal, that we can hold in the midst of pain. It's the place we tap during prayer, during gratitude, during silence. There's another story in the Bible called The Harp and the Willows. And it's about the children of Israel for a certain phase in their development or their whatever, that they were held captive by the Babylonians, and they suffered. And there was hardship, and there was toil. Yet these people did not lose their spiritual or cultural essence, and they kept a stamina for life. And it says, there's a passage in the Bible that talks about the harp and the willows, because at night, when it got dark, they would sneak down to the river, and in the willows, they would have hidden their musical instruments, their harps and their lyres, and they would get them down, and they would sing and they would dance until that overflow of joy from their heart came from the inside out, and they would celebrate each other and life and be renewed. And it was a reminder to them that they may be physically bound, they may be physically held captive, they may be emotionally repressed, but their spirit was always free. And that's what I want us to remember today, and especially on Earth Day, that where is that place that we have that we can find our harp in the willows, or that hidden place that reminds us that joy is ever present if we just let it be? Well, it has to be a practice. It has to be something we practice, that joy is always there. The spiritual teacher, Osho, says, our joy has to be shared. We can't not share our joy. It's an innate quality of joy that it must be shared. By sharing it, you are unburdened. By sharing it, new sources open up to you, new streams, new springs, and the sharing of your joy is the outpicturing of love. And he calls us to love, to be in joy and love, even in the face of hate. To be in joy and health, even in the face of illness and adversity. To train our minds to be in the state of joy no matter what's going on, to find that wellspring that we can pull from and understand. Another beautiful teacher, Mark Nepo, talks about how the problem we have with living in joy, which is our innate state, he has a book called Reduced to Joy. Because he said, if we take everything away from us, what do we have left? That's what's left. But we get so confused that we think we're looking for joy out there, and joy is somewhere other than where we are right now. And we go out and we start running either to or from, trying to find the joy that's already within. And he said in his most difficult times during cancer and loss, he has sat with that and let his sadness and his grief open him, break him open, which I think we've all expressed in many ways and experienced, to what is finally left when we've practiced joy, when we've practiced faith, is truly the joy that is inherent in all of us. We have our prayer wall Sunday And in our Prayer Wall Sunday, we use the power of prayer to heal. Now, Ernest Holmes, religious science of mind, teaches a 5-step prayer. It's got a scientific approach because it works. The first thing we understand, which the indigenous people, whether you call it Great Spirit, you call it God, you call it creative energy, we don't care what you call it, but it's this creative intelligence and the creative energy that is part of everything that we're all part of. That God is all there is. And we are that individual piece of God, that individual spark of God. That's why Ernest Holmes says we have all the joy in the world within us right now, wanting to be expressed as a unique individual us. So God is all there is, and we are one with God. Then in this energy, that's a prayer enough in itself, but in that energy, we just state what we already know. We already know it's done because it's already done in mind. We establish it done. I know health. I know prosperity. I know love. I know joy. I know goodness. Whatever it is, we state it's done. We release it because it's done. We claim it with faith and conviction, and of course, give thanks. Now, Jesus, when he prayed, he didn't have to do all the steps. He just gave thanks. Because he knew it was already done anyway. But I want you to untangle yourselves for a minute and close your eyes. And I want you to imagine that spark of light within you. That spark of joy, the healing balm of spiritual joy that is already within you. I want you to feel it as that life force. It is alive. The joy is alive. It's an energy. It's an essence. And it's seeking spontaneous expression. It wants to be revealed. But somewhere in this journey of life, you and I have covered up, diminished but not extinguished that spark of joy with fear, with negativity, with anger, whatever it is, with judgment, hatred, whatever it is, we've not extinguished, but diminished that joy. But it's there seeking, calling for attention. It wants to be expressed, that it can be released as a fountain of joy that outpictures as unconditional, ultimate love in our lives. I want you to feel that band, that chokehold that we've put around ourselves that limits our joy. And then I want you to just for now put a label on it. Is it anger? Is it fear? Is it judgment? Is it unworthiness? What is it that has been constricting the joy in you, in me, that wants to be expressed? Let it percolate up from you so you can be aware of it. Because if we stuff things, if they're not something, if we stuff them in our unconscious, then we're not conscious of them. And in order to transform them, transmute them, we need to be conscious of what it is that wants a greater expression, that wants to be transformed into a higher essence. So as you're coming up with that word that wants to be transformed and uplifted, I'm going to invite our practitioners and our ministers to create a beautiful wall of prayer. And as they walk up here, they're just going to know that God truly is all there is. And each and every person is a beautiful expression of that spirit, that life, that essence of God that is good, that is love, that is light. And as you open your eyes with that thing you are willing to release today, John and Mary, do you want to come up a little closer? Whatever it is you want to release, when you come to this prayer wall today, I invite you to just say, today I'm willing to be renewed as I release, and whatever it is you are called to release today, because we know prayer works, and we have beautiful beings that have been trained in this and are here and willing to give us a renewal today, a newness, an aliveness. May we simply know in this moment that life is inherently good. That heaven is not only above our head, but it's below our feet. It's everywhere we go. And we have the opportunity in this moment to expand into a consciousness of joy-filled living. We know that every prayer that was spoken today is infused with the love and joy that is the truth of God, the truth of life, and the truth of our being. How blessed we are to be here today. How blessed we are to make the choice to express at a higher level, the level of love, the level of joy. It is in this moment, I just ask each and every one of us, I invite us to say, I choose joy. I choose love. I choose health. I choose empowerment. I choose healing. I choose to be a fountain of light, a fountain of love, and the joy that lifts this world. It is done. So am I, and so it is. Amen. Good, good, good. Bless you all. Thank you for being here.